All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining our Tech Talk today. We have Hunter Kelly, one of our graduates actually, and they're going to be talking about their experience after graduating and basically giving us some tips on how to get hired after a coding boot camp. So thank you for being here and take it away.
Howdy, thank you for the introduction. Yeah, I'm here to talk about kind of how I became a software developer and studying and preparing for interviews and just life as a junior developer. So before we begin, if there's anything specific or an area you guys want me to talk about or address, just go ahead and ask away and I'll try and incorporate it into the presentation. So, okay. First, let me talk about how the Tech Academy got me started. And so, honestly, the information I learned from the courses I took really prepared me well for the next steps. But how you were able to take that information is up to you. And so, continuing to study after graduation is very critical to success. So it's all in there, and it's all equally important. They might quiz you on anything. So it's like this material is so fast that unless you're just inhuman, your further review and practice will go a long way towards nailing those interviews. So like vocabulary, for example, it needs to just need to know it as good as the back of your hand. So, so I'll speak a little about my background. Everybody's situation is different. For example, some people might have degrees here before the Tech Academy. Some people don't. Or you might have one, but it's unrelated. That's how mine was. You want to try and use everything you have from your background at your disposal to create those opportunities for yourself. And so the path I took, I actually didn't even get my degree until I was 32. I'm 37 now, and I didn't even start in tech until I was 36. So I've been doing this for about 14 months now since starting in the Tech Academy to where I'm currently at. And so just kind of a brief overview. I started off out of high school. I went into the military. I was in the Air Force, did that for 4 years, got out, and then sold some cars. Actually, I worked for Ford for about 4 years as well. Decided I wanted to go to school and graduated with an environmental science degree, completely unrelated from what I'm currently doing, and started off on environmental science career and started off as like a soil technician, working in and out of a lab and out in the field. And then I went to environmental consulting. I lived out in a barge in the ocean, just so far away from tech. And so finally, just to kind of sum things up there, I jumped over and found the Tech Academy. I had a lot of kind of spare time, so I used that to prepare and study a little bit. And I went through, as I remember, the little screening process. And then I did the C# .NET course, did it full time. And after about 2 weeks into it, I quit my job and just made that leap of faith. Had, a little bit of savings and just went all in. And so after them, I applied to a whole ton of places. And ultimately, I landed with Reviture. And so I can talk a lot about those consulting contracting companies because I was hired by them. I did interviews with Cognizant and Infosys, which is where I'm at now. And and so I got like a whole Reviture story for you guys, but just to kind of continue with the overview. So when I went through Reviture's program, I swapped to Java and Angular, which also is like Spring Boot backend and different databases and whatnot. And then finally, when I got picked up by Infosys, I relocated from Texas to Hartford, Connecticut, where I'm currently at now. And so I work kind of a hybrid schedule from Tuesdays and Wednesdays in office and then 40 hours a week. It's honestly everything I hoped it would be. So, and we'll get into that more at the end. Okay. So let's go right into it. I kind of skipped a page. Yeah, I just wanted to mention those. This is more what I know about when it comes to interviewing and what to expect and how to talk to these folks if these types of things interest you. But a lot of this interview experience is going to apply to anybody you talk to. And so, these folks right here, you got to, this isn't for everyone. You got to be prepared to relocate and all those things. I'm not advocating for any of these. All I'm saying is that's kind of where my experience of a lot of that comes from. So moving on. Okay, so right into studying and preparing for interviews. So there's really two sides to it. you have the behavioral and then the technical side of interviews. And so the behavioral, my best advice really there is you just want to be yourself with a positive attitude and just show a little enthusiasm. I kind of want to focus more on the technical. So behavioral, there's tons of content out there. And then the Tech Academy folks, they actually will work with you on that too a little bit, as I recall. So anyway, but on the technical, there's 3 major components that you want to feel confident about as you go into an interview. You got to be able to speak it vocally. You got to be able to show it, which is demo a project or some code. And you got to be able to perform it, which is solving a live code challenge while talking, which is a whole nother animal. So just basically, let me move on to the next slide here. There we go. Okay. Ooh, too much. All right. So you want to try and take control of the tech interview. And so to do that, you can do so by showcasing an application or, for example, your website portfolio. After the initial behavioral questions, you can ask them then if you would like to show them a project that's related or whatnot, showcases your stack. When they start asking you tech questions, based upon your response is how they're going to ask you the next set of questions most of the time. So like, for example, if they ask you what's the difference between a list and array, if you say, several, you can answer it several ways. Like a list is an interface and an array list is like a standard collection class, right? That's one way. Or you could say an array is a specified length, whereas an array list is a variable length, right? That's Java. So, and they might ask you a follow-up like, well, what is an interface? And so right there is where you can take control and say, well, let me demonstrate an interface that I used in my code. And 9 out of 10, they'll say, sure, let's see it, share your screen. And now you get to show them everything that you've done and worked on. And, generally anything that you've made, you can explain really well. So that goes a long way in being confident and showcasing what you've done. Okay. All right, next up here. Okay. So then the next part is, perform it. And a lot of people do code challenges, but when they get to an interview, it's a completely different situation. And you'll find out real fast because they'll say, all right, I'd like you, they'll pull up that whiteboard. There's different kinds out there. And they'll say, I'd like you to do this palindrome. That's one that they gave me. And if you've done it before, great. If you remember how to do it, nice. If you've never seen it before, it's almost luck-based. At that point, you need to, work it out in front of them, figure it out while explaining yourself live. And so next time you do a code challenge, try and do that. Try and talk it out as you figure it out smoothly so that, let's see. Sorry. Yeah, talk it out and solve it as if, someone's in front of you. So and that helps a lot. So you'll be much more prepared to adequately explain yourself. So, okay. And something else I wanted to say, for your demo project, definitely do something of, your stack and be able to build upon something you've already made. I like that website portfolio. I used it as like a business card because, of course, it had the resume and like a way to contact and all that. It was a really great way to network. And then, of course, you can add APIs to it. You can add like features and all kinds of little neat stuff. So, okay. So, yeah, I guess move on to life as a developer. So, and I'm sure I can go into more detail about like the Cognizant Infosys stuff. But yeah, that's actually a picture I took from my 13th floor. I moved out here. And, I was honestly dead broke when I started this adventure. And not to say like I'm, making all the money, but like, man, I went from zero to livable wage, man. And it's actually been really good. So it's worth it. That's the big thing. You got to really work for it. And that's my best advice right there. And so I'll take questions or, anything you guys want to ask or know about. And yeah, one more. It's just like my little joke of the day. A lot of people might be worried about AI, but just show them that.
I was actually going to use that for our next week's social media post on Instagram.
Yeah, it was on the front page of Reddit yesterday.
So funny. Um, all right, let's see. There were some questions in the chat. So Serengeti, after the boot camp, did you have a favorite language that you focused your applications toward? And along those lines, regarding practicing after the camp, are there any Udemy Pluralsight courses you highly recommend?
Okay, good question. Yeah, I definitely was a favorite of C# because one of my friends who was also real, been developing, that was what he did, and that was one of the ways I got interested in the first place. And so that was why I liked the Tech Academy, because they had that real straightforward thing. So I definitely was a big C# guy at first. And to this day, I still would prefer it over Java. I use Java. You really have to babysit it a lot more, but it's also in really high demand because of that. So, but along those lines, regarding practicing after the camp, are there any Udemy Pluralsight? Honestly, what I recommend doing is taking a sheet of vocabulary and definitions and quizzing yourself. And so, and then being able to tell the differences between the two. It's almost all vocal when it comes to that. And then as far as like code itself, the best practice you're going to get is by coming up with an idea of like some kind of application or something within your scope and just building it and expanding from there and practicing. And don't be afraid to ask ChatGPT a few questions along the way, but don't let it do it for you. But it can definitely helps a lot to teach. Don't ignore that too. But I don't know. Some people's stance on that is iffy, But okay, so courses that I recommend. Now, I mean, honestly, I use W3 Schools still to this day for like simple definitions and stuff. And of course, Stack Overflow, but that's can be difficult. I mean, Geek for Geeks, which is actually where like W3 is based out of, is really good. For courses, I didn't really take a lot of courses. I just kept studying. Honestly, I just kept studying what the Tech Academy had already given me just over and over again. And then from there, what Reviture had given me, I studied their materials. Okay, move on to the next question. It would be
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, so for the Jacob, the Reviture, things have changed so fast in the last couple days, months, that it's hard for me to say. Because I've heard that they have a longer wait list, but I'll tell you that if you get in with a good stack and you're prepared for relocation, and that being really the big one, like actually prepared for relocation, then it can be great. Worst case scenario, that 30K fee, it's very questionable about the enforceability of that, and it's like one of those, the worst case scenarios is you get like more training. I mean, this becoming an engineer is a really long road that takes years, and so it's a good thing you can take advantage of it, and it can always blossom into, of course, a job. Like it just depends on that. Like that, I would do further research on the actual like Reviture Reddit forums. There's stuff on there, as well, if it's right for you, because it's not right for everybody. So you burn the bridge. No, you didn't burn the bridge. They'll, you can always reapply again. But let's see, talk about my stack. Yeah, okay. So Java, Spring Boot with like Postgres is what I use a lot. Been using, and then React or Angular for the front end, and yeah, unit test. We use JUnit. Like Mockito, different. It just depends, use Maven for all kinds of dependencies on the project. And stack. And right now I'm actually onboarded to work for Vanguard Financial under Infosys. I forgot to mention that. I'm currently starting their project, and it's going to be like modernization of COBOL, which I'm gonna, probably have to learn a good chunk of that as well, which I'm not afraid of, because as you learn more and more, it's it gets easier. And so to learn, okay. Any other questions, or did I not answer one well enough?
No, all good. I do have a question. So earlier you mentioned that you necessarily didn't take any courses except just build on what you learned at the Tech Academy. How did you exactly do that? Did you just work on side projects based on everything you learned? How did you basically or continue to learn based on the information you received at the Tech Academy?
Well, I kept a lot of the actual study PDF materials to review with, and then just like studying for an exam in the sense of what is OOP, what is encapsulation, what is this, just over and over again until someone says, you could just answer it like just front hand knowledge, and that seems to be the most effective way as far as interviews, like being able to just speak it really well and give the right definitions. And if you don't know something, don't guess. Don't be like, well, variable is, something. Don't say the wrong thing if you don't know, I guess. Do not know. Just say that like, oh, I'm not sure, or ask them to clarify, and maybe it'll jog your memory, because sometimes, again, there's so much vocabulary or the context of it, of like what collection someone's talking about or whatever. It can be confusing. That's all I'm trying to say. So, do you unit test? Yeah, JUnit is what we've used for that, and so you make mock repos and all that stuff. But yeah, basically, if you don't know something, just say like, oh, I'm not sure, or what is UNet in reference to, or are you talking about this, or try and clarify. And then if you don't know, you can just say I'm not sure. It's really okay. A lot of times they will keep asking you questions until you say you don't know something. It's part of their goal. They'll just keep asking. Like I said, when they'll ask you a question based off of something you said, like what is an interface? Well, an interface is blah. Well, what is a blah? Well, they'll keep going until you say I don't know, like almost every time. And so that's why, yeah, you don't want to lie, definitely, because they know what it is, so they wouldn't ask.
No, thank you. Looks like there are a few more questions from London. How do you convey that you don't know? Okay, so something or a language, etc., which kind of goes with what you just mentioned.
My medium to learn unit testing was just through Reviture, because when we made our projects, we had to also include JUnit and testing all of our methods, our endpoints and everything. And that's about it. Like, being honest, I could certainly spend some more time in unit testing. As far as outside of that, that's kind of where my knowledge stops there. It's just like, that's one of those I learn as I go, because it's like, it's important, again, it's all important, but like, it feels like it's one of those side things, but in reality, that's sometimes the main thing, it just depends. Yeah, and again, me and to learn it, the internet. Yeah, exactly. Hey, ChatGPT. I've done something like, what does this endpoint do, and explain it to me line by line in ChatGPT. It's fantastic for learning. Or you can't put any what do they call it, proprietary software, IP software into ChatGPT, but like, it's great for like, hey, can you just make me a quick input form or something like that? So it just saves you some typing. But again, it's really more I use it more to like teach me things I don't know, like and it's just really good for that. But we'll see how that develops. It's just really interesting. I just recommend everyone at least pays attention, I guess, because it could really take off, and don't want to get left behind on what it potentially could mean. Who knows?
I know that you showed that meme at the end of your presentation, which I 100% agree with. I think a lot can be done with ChatGPT, but I necessarily don't believe it's the time, or not yet at least. Again, we don't know what's in the future for OpenAI, but they're not going to take over software developer jobs anytime soon, in my opinion. What do you think about that, Hunter?
I really, obviously, in its current form, it's just not possible. Now, there is a day where if you could just be like, all right, I want you to, from end to end, just say, I want you to make a website with these features and launch it on this domain, and then you don't have to do anything. I mean, I guess, but I don't think it's going to be creative enough or effective enough. You hear like bot written articles and all that. It's like, it's not, I don't think it's going to really work like that. But what it certainly can do is cut down on like the amount of developers you might need because of just the sheer power it has. Like you can just put out a lot of code. I mean, that was probably like the biggest harm, if you call it harm, I guess, it's in terms of that. But like, I mean, it's going to create a lot of jobs too. Like they just like they said, oh, calculator is going to ruin math. It's like, oh no, you're going to use a calculator in your math. You're going to use the AI. I would love to see things like incorporating AI into your IDE, so like it can help you like right there and stuff. It would just be, I mean, I think the possibilities of it are really exciting because it will raise you up a notch on your skill level and understanding and ability to learn. But yeah, I guess to answer that, I say no. I don't think it's a direct danger to software developers. No.
At least not anytime soon. Yeah, I agree. And it can definitely be used for your job search. I'm sure all of you can maybe use it to revamp your resume or your cover letter. So it can definitely be helpful in that process as well. So another question. So some of the students are still going through the boot camp. So do you have any tips for them while they're on the boot camp? Any study tips?
Yeah, well, just pay attention to which areas you're struggling. And so if it's like, is it the multiple choice? Is it the projects? Or the quizzes versus, and first of all, I would definitely say we'll allocate more time in that department. But the overall pacing is such that sometimes you can get ahead. I remember like getting ahead of the timer or behind the timer. Just go. And so, just keep going. I went all day I'd do it like, I think I remember doing it at least minimum 4 hours a day. Sometimes you could get a day and then 4 hours or something, but like you probably spend like 6 to 8 hours every day doing it, and then you can get ahead and relax and spend time. And but yeah, I guess sorry for the studying part. Just focus on whichever area you're not doing the best on. I would just keep hammering that. And if you don't understand something, ask, because that like okay, this will be my biggest advice. If you don't understand it, don't move on. Like if you got it to work because you kind of put the code in there, if you still don't know what's going on but it works, don't move on. I mean, well, again, I know there's time, but like make sure you understand it, and if not, ask. So because everything builds upon itself.
Looks like there's one more question in the chat. Talking about the decision for your move.
Yeah, okay, and then also there's one after. All right, so decision to move. So tell us a bit more about it. Decided to make. Yeah, so when it's like when you sign up for Reviture, they say that you'll probably have to move. I had a friend who did it, and he didn't have to move. So there's always like that. Well, sounds like I probably won't. And I'll say this: when the moment came, and they said, "All right, here you go, Hartford," I had a very short time to get there and make that decision. So if you are looking at these companies, be prepared to relocate, or I wouldn't do it. That's one of those things where I say it's definitely not for everyone. I would say it's for a few for it to really work, because I had like 2 weeks notice, but I ultimately had kind of like 1 week to do it, and I had to pack up and move over Thanksgiving. And it was not fun. I had to drive from Houston, Texas to Hartford, Connecticut, and what I did was my brother, he just happened to be getting a new place, so I gave him a lot of my furniture, and I just packed everything I could fit in my car, including my cat, and just headed on up here and had a place, and did research on it, getting a place and all that a little bit beforehand. But yeah, as far as that goes, definitely ask your friends and family for help on that, because it's just moving and all that just is no fun anyway. But as far as that goes, also because of my military background, I was like, had done it before. Like they had just shipped me to, Germany, to Kuwait, to Florida, to all over. So it wasn't the first time I had just picked up and moved either. So yeah, it was just one of those, like, I really wanted it. I really wanted to get into this field, and I was just willing to do pretty much whatever. And that's why it wasn't that hard of a decision for me.
All right, next question. Salary negotiation. What to do if well, that's a great question, and that just applies to any field really. But ultimately, you need to have some value. You need to bring value to the table. You can't just ask for a salary for no reason. You need to have like, well, I was hired to do A, and I'm doing A and B, and here's the positive results. I would like to see a positive reflect in my pay. But ultimately, the really no holds barred way to negotiate is to get another job somewhere and put in your 2 weeks and say, hey, I'm out of here. And then 9 out of 10, they'll be, whoa. But you gotta be kind of take risks and stuff for that. It just depends on your style and how aggressive you want to get in on salary negotiation. But ultimately, do a really good job, be able to show it and bring it to the table. And so you have a reason to get paid more. That's would be the best way. For your initial, like, welcome to the field, honestly, take what you can get sometimes, and it needs to be livable. But Reviture was going to pay me $45,000. But Infosys, when they bought me out from Reviture, it actually is 57. So, it's just me. I'm me and my cat. So that's, great, good for me. So for now, and I definitely, like, I just had my 6-month review here, actually yesterday, and it went excellent. Like, man, it was such a spring in my steps. You just, so I can't wait. And Infosys could be the future. I could stay here for a while. So far, they've been great. I really like their company culture. And that, I can go on about that for a while because they do really good things. They hire Americans. They're based out of India. And so they bring over like skilled immigration and talent over here. And while also hiring Americans, and just everybody wins, and like they do good stuff. So it's been good for them. Reviture was just a wild ride because of the fear of the unknown, and I was just living off of savings and stuff. And if Reviture fell through, it just would have been hard. But again, that's why it just depends on your situation. If are you at your parents' house, or can you kind of weather that, or do you need to act faster? And all that could, influence your decision. So, I went overboard on that question. Sorry.
All good. I have a question. So you mentioned earlier about asking questions and not to hesitate if you don't understand something. Personally, I have a hard time asking for help. So if you're on a job and you're new to this job, it's your first software developer job, how do you go about asking for help? I know it's just easy to say it, come out and say it.
Yeah, sure. That's actually a really good question because it's not easy when you're working on a group project and you're having a blocker and you say, hey, friend, can you help me with this? It's going to take you 15 minutes to get them to the same page. And that's a process that a lot of times, computer nerds are not necessarily the greatest at socially. So like, it can be a process to get there. And so asking for help is actually a thing. Well, I would start by trying to ask for it conceptually, because usually it's not syntax why you have an error. It's like, why isn't this information getting to this method or something like that? And it's a more conceptual question. And you have to just be patient and let them see where you're at. I mean, ultimately, like sometimes it does take a few minutes, but when they say, well, have you tried this? And you've already tried 10 of the 11 things he's going to suggest. But it's a process. Just be patient and try and be as specific as possible to eliminate all that have you tried restarting your computer type questions.
Got it. Great. Thank you. Looks like Jacob has a question. Did you try looking at any apprenticeship openings after you finish your boot camp?
When you say apprenticeship, I mean like internship or
I believe so.
Yeah, essentially. I've noticed that some companies offer like a 3-month or a 6-month program to kind of like get your feet wet in with the company, get your bearings straight.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, honestly, that's like a more direct version of these other consulting companies, because that's basically how they train you for a while, and then they get you with on a project with your staff. any way to get your foot in the door that's directly working with what you want to work with, in my opinion, is a good idea. Because if like internship, whatnot, if they're paying you, like for me, I needed to make at least some money. And that's why Reventure was it was like $8 an hour. It was at least something. And but that was my situation, So like if depends on how that is set up, but anything that's going to get you in the door on the technology you want to work with, or near it. I also would like to bring up a production role, which is like just right next to development. And it's also a really good place to start, which is you get a ticket with problem, as this software has this problem. You try and diagnose the problem and send that off to the developers. But it's more advanced than that. It's really more like you try and look through the code, find the problem, pinpoint it, document it, and send it off, so the developer just has to copy paste your solution, and just like that, you're in software development. Don't that's why they say it might not be like this direct developer role at first, but that you got to get there. What interns most are gone right now, and in terms of getting your resume and stuff out there and networking and all that, as they say, that's why I would say if you get an opportunity, take it, because you hear about all this tech layoffs and all that, but the truth is you need people at all levels in the industry at all times, and it's out there. It's so don't let any of that deter you, other than to motivate you to try harder. That's
Great, thank you. And this kind of follows up with that. What apprenticeships openings are there available that you know of right now, maybe?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Right.
I think Jacob is asking what apprenticeship openings, most are gone right now, unless he's
I don't know.
mistaken.
I can't really speak for the market, but I'll tell you one thing's for sure: don't believe it what you read on the internet. As far as like they say, oh, tech jobs are going away, or this, it's just like, oh, yeah, you need it. It's just, it's all there. Like, honestly, I feel like that's just people on the inside getting scared. Like, I don't know, but there's jobs there, and I'll say this: like the LinkedIn stuff, where it's like the easy apply. If it's easy apply, it's easily not going to work, because you literally are one of like 1,000. It's just, so you need to talk to people, and that's what they mean when they say networking. It doesn't mean like, I don't mean lots of things, but like, those automatic AI things, try and stay away from those. Get in there and talk to them, for trying to get those interviews.
Yeah, and I think it was a couple or 2 months ago we had someone here, and even though there has been layoffs, those people have been laid off. They're able to find, I think, on average, a job after 60 days. So even if you're laid off, I didn't know that in the healthcare sector they're hiring a lot of tech people. So a lot of jobs available. We actually have graduates who get hired every week.
Exactly. Fair enough. And also to like Reventure, so my batch, we had 25 people. I think like maybe 5 people couldn't complete it for one reason or another. And then, so I think, there was like 19 people, 19 people that made it through. And of them, 9 people were directly selected and went straight to Fidelity, which was in North Carolina. And then the other of us went into staging. And then of us, probably at least half of us got picked up as well. So out of the people that made it, I would say 13 out of 17, 19, so like that's pretty good odds. It's just, again, it's just difficult because you got to relocate and all that stuff. And then here's another one was, I was a team lead for our group projects for like the second half of it. And like on my team, out of the 9 people, all 4 of my team members were selected, except for me, which was, jokes on me, right? But no problem. I ended up getting picked up by Infosys. So.
Got it. Any other questions? let me know if something comes up. But Hunter, is your LinkedIn a good place for people to connect with you in case something comes up after the tech talk?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's hard, it's hard to just put it all into 20, 30 minutes as far as everything that happened. And
Yeah.
so for sure, yeah, reach out if you got any more questions and anything you need.
Yeah, of course. I shared your LinkedIn chat, so go ahead and um, connect with them on there in case you guys do have any questions. But if there are no questions, right, just gonna give it uh, another minute to see if anybody has any questions. But if not, this will be pretty much the end of the talk. Any closing statements, Hunter? Thank you so much also for joining us today.
Oh man, no problem. I hope it was a good speech for y'all. I guess my closing statement is it's worth it. It really is. It's worth it, and it's just hard, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
That's why.
It's hard work. I mean, if it was easy, anybody would just do it, right? Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us today. Also, this is being recorded, as I've mentioned earlier, and I'm going to post it later today on our YouTube channel. Here is the link for that. It should be under the Tech Talk playlist. You can also watch the previous talks we've had on there. So check that out. But other than that, like I mentioned, there is going to be another Tech Talk next Friday. I just haven't uploaded it yet. But thank you again, Hunter, and I hope everyone enjoyed today's Tech Talk, and I hope everyone has a happy Friday.
Thank y'all for coming. Have a good one.
Thanks, Hunter. Bye. Have a good weekend. Bye, guys.